Oh, I said one take it. All right.
Yeah, nice. One shot. Done. One and done. Let's do this.
That's right.
uh,
Hey, Brandon here from Eagle County, Innovation and Strategy Manager up in the mountains of Colorado, and welcome back to another episode of Intentionally Left Blank.
Hey everyone, it's Lilo from state of Colorado. Thanks for joining us again on Intentionally Left Blank. Super excited for today's episode. We're talking with Aiden from West Virginia. He is the Emergency Operations Center Executive Director down there. And we're going to learn a ton about what he does and how he got there and what he's looking forward to. So let's dive in.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, Aiden, for taking some time to talk with us today. Can you first just kind of talk through, you have a really unique role in Clay County. Can you talk a little bit about your role as well as kind of how you got there?
Sure. So I'm the executive director for Clay County CERT, which is a community emergency response team, which was originally laid out as a volunteer organization construct by FEMA that trains volunteers in disaster response. And they work with the fire department and alongside first responders during major disasters. But when I started, I really noticed that there are a lot of other gaps in our community aside from just major disaster response. So I got working with our partner agency, and we kind of grew the program to be something that isn't the occasional and usual CERT program. We have different divisions, and they work in anywhere from volunteer services all the way to teen and youth engagement, as well as outreach and education. So we've taken those divisions, and that's what's kind of gotten me from just going from program coordinator to executive director. And we work in multiple different places to provide situational awareness to first responders before, during, and after a disaster, damage and weather reporting, assessments, and everything down to hosting small community trainings on first aid and disaster response. So the scope's very large. And as far as how I got there, I identified the need in the community and saw, hey, this is something that we need that we don't have. Clay County is small. We have about 8,700 residents. And I started working with a local fire department, and that's also volunteer, considering the small community, and got everything started on the federal and state level for us to be fully instated as an official program. We got started about 2 to 3 years ago, and ever since we've continued to grow as far as how many volunteers we have, all the way to the solutions and activities that we hold. And that's what's really made a difference, is we're not just your disaster response. We work before, during, and after a disaster to plan, prepare, mitigate, and respond. So all of that really makes a difference as far as making sure that we're serving not only our partners and stakeholders, but also the community on an individual level. So I guess you could say I started the program. I worked with the people who started it, and still here today. And, you know, my roles have changed a little bit. Originally, I went from kind of doing everything, and then our staff grew, and now I make sure that all of our staff members, coordinators, supervisors have what they need to help the community. And I kind of play an incident coordinator, emergency coordinator role during disasters and things like that. And then a lot of what I do is building solutions and making new ways to make things easier, more effective, and efficient for not only our staff, but our partners. And a lot of that is due to Google. We got Google. We started our contract almost a year ago. It's more like 7 or 8 months. And that's been the absolute difference to what we do. I can wholeheartedly say that we serve our partners and our community members 100% better by our use of Google, and the way that it allows us to innovate and make things more efficient is what makes the difference. Not the company, but the tools that they give us to help people.
That is so incredible. Like that's such an amazing story to literally hear it start from basically nothing into this huge program that does outreach at literally all ends of the spectrum. That's It's blowing my mind right now, Aiden. I'm not gonna lie. So in terms of what you're working on right now, like this current situation, what is most exciting for you at this point that you're working on?
I would say the most exciting thing that I'm doing right now, and it's nearing completely operational as far as the project goes, is situational awareness and communication. So each year we kind of set a goal internally on our board of directors. This year's goal was really communications and making things work better. So one thing that I saw, we're in a small community, 8,700 or 87,000 resident, 8,700, not 8,700. Residents is not very many, but still a lot of people to protect. So I noticed, the information flow and analysis isn't really there. We don't have large agencies that are working to collect and disseminate information. And that sometimes is troublesome. When you're in an incident or a disaster, you need to know who, when, where, why, and as much information as absolutely possible. So we started working, I found Google Data Studio and I started playing around with some different things there and found, some ways that I could make some dashboards. And I looked at a couple of pictures of other solutions like Web EOC and a couple of other solutions that other people had made, and really just got experimenting, pulling in some data that we'd already collected through forms and sheets, all the way to scraping data from websites and other organizations, collecting information from state, local, and federal partners that was public. It was already on the web. I just had to scrape it off and put it into a format that was able to be used, and created these dashboards that have really made a difference, because I can look at one screen and see so much about a situation opposed to scrolling through numbers and just having to, if 4, 4, 4, and 5, what does that mean? Now I can see a map that means something. You can tell a story with it. And that 4, 4, and 5 shows me, hey, this area right here is affected more than this area. This is where we need to focus. And that has been the major factor in contributing to how we can more effectively contribute to our community.
What you're saying resonates with me so much. I've spent part of my career at state level EOCs with fire departments at the local level, and really struggling to make that leap from paper and 3-ring binders to cloud-based digital tools. So I've struggled with sit reps. I've struggled with situational awareness tools and stuff like that. And I'm fascinated. We'll drop some links to some of the examples that you've had into the post. But if you had a crystal ball and you're looking over the horizon, from a state level, from a local level, what do you think the trends are and the impact of some of these new technology tools, going beyond into situational awareness? What, from an operational perspective, if you look over the horizon at CERTs and emergency management, what do you see the trends or needs that we can respond to are with these tools?
That's an astonishing question, especially with disasters. You never know who's going to be able to be there. A tree falls across the road of your emergency manager, and now you're throwing somebody else into that role. So kind of cross training, but that's something that's difficult to do, to train everyone to do everything. So I think standardization and automation of things is what's most important. And you mentioned sit reps. We do decision support briefings and sit reps. And I went through just recently and made all of them step-by-step standardized with the links to pull all the information that they need. Itemized, what do I need to put in this? Where do I get it from? Who do I talk to? And that way, I seriously believe I could take a toddler off the street and they could do these sit reps. That's how easy they are. And that's what we need to have. We need to have things not easy because we're lazy, but easy because it needs to be fast, effective, and efficient. And standardized. It's not fair for one of our partners to receive a trashy sit rep because this person's inexperienced, when this person that has a lot of experience is making these wonderful sit reps. That's not fair to the partners that you're disseminating information to, or the people that you're working with. So being able to not only standardize things, but also kind of automate it. why do I need to spend 3 hours of my day doing monotonous tasks that it's just punching a button or moving a file? If I have to, one thing that's horrible is when information comes in, if it's just going into one spot, why not have it automated to where it goes exactly where it needs, and then it's where it needs to be, but let somebody know that it's there. So automation is important, and I think that that's sort of where we're going. A lot of technology is moving in that way, and it does not remove jobs. It allows people to do more for people, which is who we're working for. And I think that that's what's helpful. You can take on an extra project. You don't have to sit and do the same thing forever. That's not really getting anywhere. That monotonous, one thing that comes to mind is our finance and executive reports. I have to do those every month. Well, it's the same thing every month. I made a data studio. All of that data is pulled in from all of the sources, timesheets, everything. It puts it into a data studio. When it comes to our board of directors meeting, I click a link and everything's there. I don't have to worry about, typing all of it in. That wastes my time, and time is it is absolutely the most valuable resource that we have.
That's crazy. The three things that jump out at me, and number one is the biggest one, is Aiden is a walking example of how one person can change government.
Yes,
I mean,
totally.
Hearing about what he's done in terms of the need, identifying the need, mobilizing a team to respond, organizing the technology response around it, and effectively creating an emergency management support system in Clay County is remarkable. I think the second thing that jumped out was his use of off-the-shelf tools. I mean, Clay County is 8,700 residents. I mean, we're not talking about a place that's awash in capital resources to be able to put into, a lot of projects and technology. And the fact that he turned around and used off-the-shelf technology to create sit reps, decisional briefings, dynamic dashboards updating, I think is a real testament to where we've come as kind of government responders and being able to adapt to technology. I think there's also side clap to the state and federal partners here. Not only is what Aiden have done is amazing from a technical perspective, but without the energy from state and local partners like NOAA, state of West Virginia, transportation, stuff like that, he's got information to scrape. There's data sets available that he can pull in and make actionable at the local level. Mm-hmm. I think the third thing is really Aiden was talking about concepts that we've been talking about at the state level and things for a while. Like, how do you automate the simple? How do you automate the time consuming? And trying to reshape the idea that automation doesn't mean less jobs. What it actually means is more time on target. You can free up people so they can pursue things they're really good at or that need to be done beyond the mundane or tedious. And again, maybe that force multiplier of what's being done at the state, at the local, from private sector companies, and making platform tools that are accessible by non-technical people. The fact that sitting in rural West Virginia, he can start to use those kinds of off-the-shelf tools to free up extremely limited resources and valuable time to tackle even bigger projects. I'm blown away by what he's been able to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of those things that, I mean, we kind of danced around too with Jessica's video, or with Jessica's conversation, where a lot of the time spent on training is actually not that folks necessarily are anti-training, but it's just that they don't have time to train, Yeah. And if we're doing automation, that frees up that time for that necessary upskilling to then make them better employees, right? So it should never be a discussion of how many FTE are we going to dump because of automation. It's how many FTE can we make better because of automation. So,
Totally.
yeah, just amazing stuff. So the first thing for me was sit reps, right? So the situational reporting that he has to do, basically making that like a living, breathing document where it's like pulling information directly off of like sheets, essentially, filling in some blanks, and then like people who are out in the field or who are responding to their emergencies have that readily available and updating in real time. Like I think that's so powerful, especially when time is of the essence and that stuff, dude. That's really prime time. The other thing that he talked about was like taking his program and going from just emergency response to now like everything around preparedness. So like doing the front end training, making sure that people are ready for disasters as they hit, and then transitioning to actual emergency management. And then after that, doing the recovery efforts and the build outs and all that stuff. Like, I think that's so telling because it is just him, right? It's like, it's his team that scaled literally from just him to something a lot bigger for his county. I mean, that's so impressive. And then the last thing was kind of like what you were saying earlier with like using off-the-shelf tools. So using like Data Studio to create these visual dashboards for situational awareness, and like scraping all that data from NOAA, from the state level, from the federal level, about weather reporting, like was his example, but then being able to take that same weather data, translate that to his county and know exactly what is happening for like forecasting or like, where he needs to like dump resources into, that kind of stuff. I think that's just so powerful. And the fact that it's like no additional cost for him is even better. Like, I think that's just such a fantastic use of those tools. That because it's saving lives, right? It's not just like, what's our bottom line or like, what's our profit? This is like, how many people have we saved today? How much money can we help the community or like provide back to the communities? That kind of stuff. So I think that's just such an incredible story.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Aiden's future participation in the public sector community, because I just think he brings such a fresh set of eyes in the reality of the limited resources and constraints that he's got and what he's been able to maximize out of the tools. I think is really exciting, and I think it has a lot of lessons for many different areas and all levels of government. More of that.
Yes, 100% more of that, please.
Hey, thank you for joining us this week on Intentionally Left Blank. Another great discussion, and looking forward to having you join us next time.
Thanks again for watching this week's episode. Special thanks to Aiden for joining us and sharing his incredible insights with us. You know where to find us. Again, we're down in the comments section of the video, also in the Digital Transformation Community of Interest for the Public Sector Connect website. If you have questions, comments, leave them there, and we are happy to chat with you there. Until next time, we'll see you around.
I'm currently looking out the window at an incoming snowstorm, and then I'm also looking at my pile of firewood, which still needs to be processed because the pieces are too big to fit in my fireplace. And I'm trying to do the math. Just one take.